Hey there, it's Chris with Acton Creative, and this is A Handwoven Experience. In today's episode, I'm going to talk about turning a weaving draft. Now, for my sweet beginners that are still sorting out how to dress a loom, how to throw a shuttle, how to weave all the colorful, amazing things, that is awesome. But friends, this is not the episode for you. No. I'm going to kindly redirect you to how to read a weaving draft. That is going to be like a foundational episode when it comes to understanding what this crazy graphic looks like and what it does for you. As a matter of fact, if you really enjoy or are intrigued by the idea of a weaving draft, I have an entire class that does a deeper dive into exactly what you're looking at, what it means, and how to use it. So those are the better options, my friends. I promise I'll have upcoming episodes that are perfect for all the beginners, but this one is a little more technical, I gotta say. Speaking of technical, let me just admit to you that I'm not a technical weaver. I find that the more technical the weaving discussion gets, the less I am interested. It is just the way I'm wired. So for me, I had heard people talk about turning a weaving draft a few times now in the last few months. And I thought, in my head, I kind of get it, but let me look a little closer and make sure I understand the concept, the strategy, what it is and why you would do it. And then once I got it, I would share it with you. I have found that if there's something that I'm curious about or that really catches my attention, it is absolutely worth it for me to then share it with you, because maybe not today, but maybe in the future, you'd be like, hey, what is this turning a weaving draft? I'll have an episode ready for you. That's how this goes. So my goal today is to straddle that nice fine line of explaining it clearly and succinctly without getting too much in the weeds. That is the goal for today. Wish us luck. Here we go. Friends, this is a weaving draft. Now, a weaving draft has just a few major components. It always has a section for the threading, which talks about where the warp yarns go. There's always a section that talks about the treadling, which is where the weft yarns go. And there's always a section about the tie-ups, which is a key for your shafts. Every draft has those components. Those are your instructions for how to make the fabric, the pattern that they're showing. So when someone talks about turning a weaving draft, what they mean is that you spin it 90 degrees counterclockwise, and then you swap your tie-ups. You do just the opposite of what was in the original. Those two steps are how you turn a draft. Now, like I said, I am simplifying all of this. There are fewer more nuances to it than that, but that's the gist of it. When someone talks about turning a draft, they're spinning it 90 degrees and they're flip-flopping the tie-ups. Voila, that's all. So you may be thinking, okay, Chris, I follow that. That seems kind of crazy. Why would you do this? There's perfectly good drafts out there. Why would you need to mess with them? Well, as it turns out, there are some pretty good reasons why you might want to turn a draft. The first one has to do with shafts and treadles. Specifically, if you want to swap them out. Because you saw that motion, right? Where basically the treadling becomes a threading and the threading becomes a treadling. Okay, here's a scenario. I have a 4-shaft loom that has 6 treadles, okay? However, I'm looking at a draft that calls for 6 shafts and 4 treadles. If I spin that sweet little thing, then I can do it on my loom, because I have taken a draft that called for 6 shafts that now, with a little turning, calls for 4 shafts. Now I have the ability to do it on my loom just by switching, by flip-flopping those two major components, the threading and the treadling. Now we're in business. So if you're in a scenario where your loom has fewer shafts than what the draft calls for, check it out. It may be possible for you to turn it so that you can do it then on your loom. So that's the first really good reason why you might want to contemplate turning a draft. The second has to do with shuttles. Let's say that you are doing a pattern where it calls for 2 shuttles. Back and forth, 2 shuttles. For whatever reason, it could be that they're 2 different weights, 2 different colors, could be anything, but it's 2 shuttles. And I don't mind working with 2 shuttles too much, but maybe that's one of your pet peeves. You're like, I hate that, constantly having to manage 2 shuttles back and forth. But in this scenario, it's just 1 color in the warp. Okay. So if you were to turn your weaving draft, suddenly your warp has all the crazy changes of colors or yarns, and your weft is just 1. So it's a great way to move from having 2 shuttles to contend with all the time throughout the entire project to just 1, simply by moving the draft 90 degrees so that your treadling becomes a threading, and vice versa. So that's the second reason that you might want to ponder turning a draft, is if you want to diminish how many shuttles you are working with. Here's the third one. There are occasions when the orientation or the design in your project is just going the wrong way. Have you ever had that happen? Whether it be stripes or hearts or kitty cats or whatever it is. When the orientation is going the wrong way, that's a great reason to then turn your draft, because then the stripes that you had to do with the weft yarns become stripes that are already built in the warp. The hearts that were facing this way are now facing this way. The kitty cats, they're going the right way. Do you see what I'm saying? There are design moments that the original draft just may not be what you were looking for. And in so many cases, if you just turn the draft 90 degrees, it can all be reworked so it is going the direction that you like. So those are 3 really good reasons why you might want to play with turning a weaving draft. Now, let me say this. As I mentioned at the beginning, this is very high level, friends. I tried very hard not to get into all the technicalities and the ins and outs of actually turning a draft. If you are intrigued by this idea, there's some great information out there on the interwebs and in some weaving books that you can check out to really be like, okay, I am completely comfortable and I'm gonna turn my weaving draft. And I think you absolutely should try it. But I wanted to just kind of keep this, just kind of higher up, high level. Theoretically, in the future, if you find one of those scenarios where you either want to change how many shafts you're working with, great reason to turn a draft, or maybe you want to shrink how many shuttles you have to work with, or if the design just needs to go the other direction, great, friends, turn your weaving draft. Give it a chance. Now, I would love to hear from you. Have you done this in the past? What was the scenario? Why did you turn it? And how did it go? Please give me all the details, because I haven't actually put it into practice yet. I've studied it, I've looked at a lot of examples, but haven't actually done it. So I'm gonna rely on you to fill in all the blanks. Why did you decide to turn it? And how did it go? I know I can count on you. Okay, friends, we'll get back to easier, lighter, beginnery kind of things with future episodes, but I thought it was worth it for us to chat about something a little more technical, but that could be really helpful as you are progressing in your weaving journey. Have a wonderful week, my friend. Happy weaving.